Have you ever wondered why Doey's body doesn't just fall apart? Seriously, the longer you watch him in Poppy Playtime, the stronger the feeling becomes that we're not looking at some simple creature made of clay. His body breaks almost every basic limitation of real-world materials. Doey stretches like a thick liquid while still holding its shape like a solid object. He can squeeze through narrow spaces without damage, create additional limbs directly from the mass of his own body, withstand enormous impacts, and literally restructure his anatomy within seconds. And the problem is, no ordinary material should be able to work like that. Plastic is too brittle, silicone is too soft, rubber loses its shape, gel wouldn't even support its own weight. Even modern smart materials begin to fail under extreme deformation. But Doey keeps moving as if his body doesn't obey normal mechanics at all. And this is where things start getting really interesting. If you closely examine the way his mass behaves in Chapter 4, it becomes clear that his body resembles programmable matter more than an actual toy. Real-world material science already explores similar concepts. Researchers at MIT and Carnegie Mellon study so-called programmable matter, materials capable of changing shape and properties depending on external conditions. But even those technologies look primitive compared to Doey. Because his body doesn't simply change shape, it behaves like a unified living system. When Doey stretches his arm, the mass doesn't tear apart or become critically thin. Instead, it redistributes itself throughout the entire body. That behavior is extremely similar to non-Newtonian materials, substances capable of instantly changing stiffness under pressure. Real science already has a material called shear thickening fluid. Under normal conditions, it behaves like a liquid, but during sudden impact, it becomes almost solid. NASA has even researched similar materials for protective suits and armor systems, but in Doey's case, the system appears far more advanced. His body seems to regulate density across different regions simultaneously, and that's exactly why he survives prototypes' attacks. Notice something else. Doey has no skeleton at all, which means every force acting on him must be distributed entirely through the material itself. For a normal mass, that would be impossible. Under its own weight, it would either collapse or lose stability completely. But Doey's body functions more like a distributed structural network. A similar principle exists in octopuses. They don't have rigid skeletons either, but their muscles form what's known as a muscular hydrostat, a structure where movement and shape support happen simultaneously. Research from the University of Chicago and the Marine Biological Laboratory shows that these systems can maintain control even during extreme tissue deformation. That's exactly why octopuses can squeeze through openings smaller than their own bodies. But Doey goes even further. In some scenes, he literally creates arms directly out of the floor, and this introduces the most disturbing part of his anatomy. His mass no longer behaves like a single organism, it behaves like a colony of interconnected elements. That starts looking extremely similar to slime mold intelligence, the behavior of slime molds capable of transmitting signals throughout an entire mass without a centralized brain. Even Doey's emotions affect the structure of his body. When he enters a rage state after the destruction of Safe Haven, his form begins mutating. He becomes larger, more aggressive, and develops new deformations. And surprisingly, that also has scientific parallels. There's an entire field in biomaterials focused on adaptive polymers, materials capable of changing properties in response to chemical signals. Hormones, temperature, and electrical impulses can alter stiffness and structural behavior. And if you combine that with a living nervous system, you get something terrifyingly close to Doey. But the most important detail is his weakness to cold. The game directly shows that liquid nitrogen almost completely paralyzes his body, and that perfectly matches the behavior of polymer networks. At extremely low temperatures, molecular chains lose mobility. The material becomes brittle, stops redistributing force, and loses plasticity. That's exactly why frozen Doey can no longer regenerate his shape. His mass literally stops. What's especially interesting is how consistently the developers portray his physics. Even when Doey moves through narrow spaces, the mass retains inertia. It doesn't teleport or disappear. it flows. That may sound minor, but details like that make him one of the most scientifically believable creatures in the entire series. And the deeper you analyze his structure, the more terrifying the final conclusion becomes. Maybe there was never actually a creature inside Doey in the traditional sense, because the body itself is the brain,